What's up now? What's up, free yourself and mind family? We back. And today, man, we freeing ourselves from shame and guilt. We're getting that up off of us. You know, I've been thinking about it. And like I told you, I've been interviewing for jobs and, continuing to try to level up. And one of the things that comes up in the process, like I told you, is obviously a background check for some of these jobs. And you go through the conundrum of, do I disclose? Do I not disclose that something is going to come up on the background check? Do I let them know of my current situation that, my time's a bit restricted given that I'm in a work release program? Do I put that on the table when I'm going through the process and bank on honesty prevailing? Or do I hold that information to myself, hoping that, knowing that once somebody meets me, I'm going to crush the interview, you're going to like me, you're going to hire me, and then when that pops up on the back end, you'll advocate for me if you're able to go outside of policy to bring me on your team. And mind you, the things that are going to come up are not the worst of the worst, but, it's definitely, each company is different. If you have a felony on your background, right? So, that's something I have to consider. And the reason I bring up shame and guilt is because the reason you don't tell somebody that is, we talk a lot about fear, but it's really because it's not that you feel so much shame about it, but you feel guilty for the things that you've done and conveying that to the other person. And it's not that you necessarily fear, you do fear their judgment. It's not that you are fearing their judgment. You fear that they judge how you're going to fit within the company. Sorry, I had to pause that video because a phone call came through, but we'll edit this back. But back to what we were saying, right? So shame and guilt can produce fear, right? I'm not honest about the things that I've done because I fear your perception of what I've done and how it affects your view of me as a person. Are you going to put my application through? Are you still going to consider me for the role, even though you love me and you think I'm a great fit for the role? Once I tell you this information, it's going to potentially affect how you view me. And the more that this occurs throughout the process, the more shameful and guilty I feel for these convictions, and it can send me back to a place where I don't feel good about myself, right? That's my example, but let's extrapolate that. A lot of people have guilt and shame for things they've done in their life, right? And if you don't forgive yourself or free yourself of this guilt and shame, right? Obviously, you need to take accountability first for the actions that you've completed or done, the things that you've said, whatever you've done. And these don't have to be terrible things. It's whatever brings you shame and guilt. There is no big scale, right? We're not here to compare, but whatever brings you shame and guilt, you need to free yourself from. Now, it's obviously a process. You don't just wake up one day and say, it's over. You got to go through the process. You got to try to make amends. You have to continue to build your self-esteem. You have to accept this journey. You have to accept yourself. You have to accept parts of you that may be nasty, that may be ugly, and change those things about yourself, right? Right? The shame that you have doesn't mean that the things that you did weren't shameful, but you have to continue to move forward. Those things are over. And whatever carnage and damage you created, you can try to repair that, but the reality is it may not be able to be repaired. We're talking relationships, we're talking situations, we're talking circumstances. But it's about what's inside of you, right? That's what we're trying to fix. Because what happens inside of us affects what goes on outside of us. So the only thing that we can do is continue to stack better days and continue to stack better habits and have better conversations, because the reality is this, right? Anything that we've done, any character traits that we've displayed, anything that's occurred throughout our life is a part of us. Just because I don't do certain things and don't say certain things anymore, I may have buried those things, but they still exist because they were part of me and built me into who I am today. So I have to appreciate that. I have to embrace the journey. This is my story. I have done things. I have been through things. I have experienced things. I have said things that maybe I'm not the proudest of, but I don't run from them. I don't have shame anymore. I don't have guilt. I've done those things. I've learned from them. And I've gotten better. I would not be who I am today. I would not be making this channel. I would not be recording this video had I not experienced any of these events in my life, right? And that's what it's all about. A lot of times we're at war with ourselves instead of accepting ourselves and having an honest assessment of ourselves and figuring out how we can get better balance. You can recreate your identity. You can present yourself in a different manner, but your DNA is your DNA. You are who you are. If you've never, ever, ever been good at math, you can get better at arithmetic, but at some point you have to realize no matter how much time you spend, you'll probably never be an expert. Why do I feel bad about that, right? I know that's not my strong suit, so if I encounter a situation where I have to do a lot of math, then I need to partner with people who are good at math, right? I don't need to feel guilty and shameful that if I'm in a professional setting or I'm helping my kids with math or whatever the case may be and I struggle, I need to know that about myself going into the situation and protect myself by arming myself with the necessary tools to get me through the situation that requires the math. That's how I eliminate the shame and the guilt, right? I accept certain things about myself. And then if those things are considered quote unquote weaknesses or things that are gonna create challenges within my life, then I insulate them, improve them the best that I can, and incubate them by putting tools around them to turn it into an opportunity, right? So a lot of people that run companies, right? Some of the most successful people in the world will tell you they're not the smartest people in the room, but they have people on their teams who are good at things that they're not good at because they're honest with themselves, right? And that's what we have to do, is be honest with ourselves, rigorously honest, right? That's what we have to do. Of course, you do things that you don't necessarily approve of. You may reflect on things that you've done or things that you've said or things you wish you could do differently. The reality is you can't. Feel those feelings though, but don't allow them to hold you hostage. See, this is one of those mental prison cells that we talk about. And too many times we allow that to prevent and stunt our growth. And if anything you learned on this channel, we don't do that. So today we free ourselves from shame and guilt. We accept the things that don't make us feel good. Let me rephrase it. We don't accept the things that don't make us feel good, but we accept that we have done things and said things that when we think about them, they don't make us feel good. We acknowledge that we don't feel good when we think about the things that we've said or the things that we've did in particular situations. We analyze those events. We identify what drove us to that place. And then we move forward. We strengthen those opportunities about ourselves. If this has been a pattern in your life, whatever event you're thinking about, then you have to say, what's driving this? What is the core mechanism that's pushing me into this place? And once I can pinpoint that, I know that this is something about me that exists. It's not going to change overnight. So how do I put things in my life around this particular character trait that I have to prevent me from doing this as frequently as I've done it in the past, that it doesn't continue to create carnage in my life as I continue to improve this characteristic about myself. I acknowledge and I accept. I don't run and I don't hide from anything that I've done or said. I have to embrace that it's a part of me and my journey. And as I continue to move forward and as I continue to grow, these have all been points of the journey that I cannot erase. I embrace, I accept, I move forward, I get better each day. I see these as opportunities and not as funerals. I will not be held hostage or held prisoner by these feelings and these thoughts. I know this is not who I am. Even if it's who I am today, it will not be who I am tomorrow because it starts with a mindset. And if there's certain things I can't do on my own with my own willpower, then I will get the resources and the help and the people in my life that I need, the information, whatever it is, to continue to grow. And that's where we're going to leave this today. Use this, man. Too many of us are held back by these thoughts and these feelings. It prevents us from going places. It prevents us from sharing information. It prevents us from being ourselves. It'll convert you into somebody you're not if you're not careful. it'll have the adverse effect if you're not careful. So the day we free ourselves from the shame and guilt, y'all, it's that simple. Remember, today we remain free, and remember, only you had the key. It's your boy J Money, and I'm out.